Just Pearly Things has caught a lot of flack on the Black YouTube space for a interview she did with known white supremacist Nick Fuentes that pretty much went south. Since then, there has been a ton of videos resurfacing about previous comments that she's made about slavery that pretty much reinforced the views that she espoused on her interview with Nick Fuentes and recently shared on a podcast that she did with Mamiya Obsidian Ali. Check it out.
While we're there, let me ask you this. Just Pearly Things, what is your position on reparations? Are you for or against reparations for Black American citizens?
I'm against reparations. I don't believe in that. Sorry, I'm just being honest.
I'm just letting you know what
I know. I know they won't like that. I'm telling you, I don't know.
Okay. Why are you against? I'm going to give you a chance to fully flesh this out. Why are you against reparations for Black American citizens?
I mean, I just don't really know how you would do that in a way that makes sense. It's like nobody today has done anything. So I would just have to see how they could do that. And I haven't really seen a way that they could do it efficiently. So, so it's kind of like making people today pay for the sins of their ancestors. So,
Well, let me ask you this, Pearl. Just Pearly Things, were your forebearers, your great grandparents and so forth, were they slave masters?
No, I'm Irish and German.
So as we can see, despite the fact that she gave a formal apology and also went on Obsidian's platform to try to smooth things over or to try to further clarify the comments that she made that were very offensive, at the end of the day, she does not support reparations. Even within Black America, this topic of reparations is really controversial. You have some who say, look, forget about reparations, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You have others who say, look, I'm not able to get ahead unless I get some governmental support. And truth be told, I think both are valid. I totally and completely think that there needs to be more focus on emphasis on us doing our part to build our own, to do what we can, and to use whatever is available to us to try to move ahead. I totally, completely agree with that. But at the same time, I don't think that we need to overlook the institutional advantages that other races and other groups of people have gotten. Like, two things can be true at once. You can still work hard and you can also still acknowledge how other people have been systematically advantaged and then try to bridge that gap. Personally, I always think this is a gaslighting trick for you to say, oh yeah, slavery was horrible, but it wasn't bad enough for you to actually warrant reparations like other communities got. I mean, that's just a classic situation of gaslighting. But this is what has happened. The fact that we're having this conversation now, decades upon decades after our ancestors were legally, right, freed from slavery. We know that there were other stuff that happened after that, right? This is exactly why reparations hasn't happened and still hasn't happened. Because at the end of the day, there are a lot of people out there, are a lot of people in white America and greater America in general who just simply don't believe that it's necessary, that it's warranted. I often hear when people take the stance that slavery wasn't as bad as they make it seem, is the fact that, oh, well, Black people owned slaves too.
1/3 of freed slaves owned slaves and then fought for the Confederacy. Like, bruh, what the fuck?
To be clear, if you're talking about slavery in the West, chattel slavery in the United States of America, first of all, there's never been anything else like chattel slavery, right? Chattel slavery was a very specific kind of slavery, distinctive from other cultures and other nationalities. Secondly, when you have situations of Black people in America who actually purchased slaves, majority of the time, those people were purchasing their own family members, maybe their brothers or their aunts or their fathers or whatever. They're actually purchasing their family members as a way to get them off slavery. There are plenty of historical context for this. So no, Black people weren't buying slaves and running plantations. Like, that would literally go against the intention of America at that time, which was to keep Black people a permanent underclass. So the few times or the instances that Black people actually did have slaves, again, majority of the times they were doing it to try to free their family members off of the plantation. Again, if you look at historical accounts, this is not hidden. This is not a conspiracy. It's very much a real thing. So to try to assume that half of the slave masters were looking like Mr. from Color Purple is just, it is completely ahistorical and it's false. And again, to me, it goes back to that need to try to gaslight and minimize the sense of this nation so that the society does not have to own up to its guilt. As I mentioned before, I will mention again. Her views, her politics, her perspective is nothing new. And in fact, she's actually quite common. Her beliefs are quite common among white America. Why do I know this? Because reparations hasn't happened. My main point is the reason it hasn't happened is because it's not a priority. It's not a priority to the American society. Although the Jewish community got reparations, and the Native American community got reparations, and the Japanese community got reparations, and yes, even white slave owners got reparations. Yes, they got it. It was a priority for them, but it has not been a priority for Black America. And this is what I think the conversation with Just Pearly Things reflects. It reflects the general mindset and the general sentiment of American society today. Now, one of the other reasons reparations still hasn't passed and we're still having this conversation is because it's been met with a lot of challenge within the legal system. Now, while you can make a moral argument for the fact that slavery was obviously bad, it's harder to make a legal argument for why slavery was bad during a time period that it was actually legal. Remember, slavery was legal into America. And so some of the challenges that have been experienced over the years is making a case against something that was actually considered legal and constitutional. And so this has been a legal challenge, among other challenges that have been experienced in the fight towards reparations. Now, according to reparations experts and PhD historians such as Dr. Jahi Issa, there can be a case made for reparations if you consider the illegal slave trade. Now, this really isn't talked about a lot, and actually a lot of people don't know about it, but sources suggest that African slaves were trafficked to the Americas after 1808 when it was illegal.
Texas continued to bring Africans into Texas, mainland Texas, long after the end of the illegal slave trade. Can you talk about that a little?
Well, Texas, the settlers were manic enslavers. It's no accident that today Texas has the largest Black population in the United States of America. After the United States supposedly had abolished their role in the African slave trade, which supposedly was 1808, that you had Congolese being smuggled into Galveston, for example. Even after Juneteenth, even after the official abolition of slavery, or the formal abolition of slavery, I should say, June 19th, 1865, if I may use that date, you still had enslavement of Africans, and you still had smuggling of Africans. Because what's interesting about Texas is that no Black person on planet Earth could be safe from the snares of Texas enslavers.
There can be a case made for the amount of slaves that were brought over once it was illegal to do so. My direct answers to being one of them. Now, as far as what reparations would actually look like, that warrants another discussion. And according to authors such as Dr. Nellie Fuller, who termed being on code and literally created a code of ethics by which he thinks African Americans should live by, he doesn't think a check would cut it. He and other reparations advocates think that there needs to be a more full reparations approach. Reparations needs to happen on every single level where Black America was systematically and negatively targeted and harmed, whether it be financially, systematically, socially, economically, psychologically, all of the above. HR 40 bill breaks this down in detail, where it talks about the different ways and the different avenues and the strategy that could be taken by which African Americans can be fully repaired. Check it out. The reparations is still going on. And look, whether you agree with reparations or you do not agree with reparations, nevertheless, the conversation needs to be had. And, you know, I take this position. I personally do think reparations is important, but at the same time, I don't believe that we have to wait and put our life on hold until it comes. You should absolutely do everything within your power to go and live a successful life. And you can. There are plenty of Black people out there who, even without reparations, were able to get ahead and were able to live a satisfying satisfying life. So it is possible, but it's important to understand, if you're talking about a collective, if you're talking about a community, we all know the Black community has a ton of issues. And this is partially what reparation is about, addressing the issues that have been caused as a result, not of just slavery, but Jim Crow, Reconstruction, redlining, medical malpractice, gentrification, the prison epidemic, all the different things that where Black people were systematically targeted in a way that has impacted our relationships with ourselves, with one another, and negatively impacted the overall community. So again, if that interests you, that is what reparations is about. But I hope you learned something from this. Let me know what you think in the comment section, whether or not you agree or disagree. Thank you so much if you've taken the time to listen to this video. Like, share, subscribe, and we will talk later. Okay, bye.